Welcome back, everybody. You know, it's funny, we often talk about blessings, but have you ever stopped to think about the actual process of receiving them?
Yeah, it's not always as straightforward as we might think.
Right. And today, we're going deep on that very idea.
We're diving into a talk that really flips the script on how we approach blessings, kind of a fresh perspective.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me. What's the source material for this deep dive?
We're looking at Abound with Blessings, a 2019 talk by Elder Dale G. Renlund. He's an apostle in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, interesting. Now, even though this deep dive comes from a religious perspective, I have a feeling there's something here for everyone, right?
Oh, absolutely. This talk has a universal appeal, honestly, regardless of your beliefs. It's all about taking action, and who doesn't want more blessings in their life, right?
Right. So what's the core message here? What's the secret sauce to unlocking these blessings?
Well, Elder Renlund starts with a pretty powerful metaphor, actually. He talks about a giant woodpile.
A woodpile. Hmm. That's an interesting image. I'm not sure I see the connection to blessings just yet.
Okay, so picture this. A huge woodpile stacked high, representing all the blessings God has in store for us, right? You've got tiny bits of kindling, then small logs, and then these massive logs, each representing blessings of different magnitude.
Okay, I can see it now. A big pile of potential blessings just waiting to be.
Well, what's the missing piece here?
Ah, there's the catch. Sitting right next to this enormous woodpile is a single match. And that match, my friend, represents our actions.
Whoa, I get it now. The woodpile is all that potential, but it takes that spark, that action, to ignite it all.
Exactly. It's not enough to just admire the woodpile, to just wish for those blessings. We got to strike the match.
So are you saying we have to earn those blessings, like it's some kind of cosmic reward system?
Not quite. It's not about earning blessings in a transactional way, but rather about aligning ourselves with God's will through action. It's about being ready to receive those blessings. Okay, I'm starting to see the nuance here. So it's less about racking up points and more about creating the right conditions for those blessings to manifest.
You got it. It's like, having all the ingredients for a delicious cake, but never actually turning on the oven.
Huh, perfect analogy.
Hmm.
You can have all the potential in the world, but without action, nothing happens.
Precisely. And sometimes the action required is surprisingly small compared to the potential outcome. Think of the story of the Israelites bitten by those poisonous snakes in the wilderness.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty intense story. They were in a dire situation.
They were, and to be healed, all they had to do was look at the brass serpent Moses raised up. Simple, right?
Yeah, I mean, talk about a seemingly small act for such a huge consequence. But I guess it highlights how even seemingly insignificant actions can lead to powerful results.
You got it. It's about tapping into that power beyond ourselves.
So you're saying there might be small actions we're overlooking in our own lives that could unlock bigger blessings.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's the smallest things that make all the difference.
Okay, so if it's not about earning blessings, what's the right way to think about it?
Elder Renlund uses this word qualify. We don't earn blessings, but we qualify for them through faith-inspired action.
Qualify versus earning. Interesting. What's the difference there?
Think about it like winning a race. You don't earn the medal by just existing, right? You got to train, you got to run the race, you got to put in the effort to qualify for that victory.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about aligning our actions with our desires. We're not just passively hoping for things to happen. We're actively preparing ourselves to receive those blessings.
Exactly. And even prayer, something often seen as passive, is actually a form of action. It's about consciously reaching out to God.
Right, not just going through the motions, but actively engaging in our faith and inviting God's influence into our lives.
Exactly. And sometimes a single prayer isn't enough. Like in the story of Daniel W. Jones.
Ooh, a story. Tell me more. Who's Daniel W. Jones?
So back in the 1800s, he was leading an expedition to Arizona, right? And they ran dangerously low on water. Things were looking pretty bleak.
Yikes. I can only imagine how desperate they must felt in that situation. The desert is no joke.
Yeah, it was life or death. So they prayed for help, and miraculously, rain and snow came. They were able to replenish their supplies.
Wow, that's incredible. Talk about a divine intervention.
It was. But here's the thing. When they got back to Salt Lake City, they reported that Arizona was uninhabitable.
Wait, what? Seriously? After that miracle, they still thought it was a no-go.
I know, right? So Brigham Young asked Jones, "What would you have done?"
I'm on the edge of my seat. What did he say?
He simply replied, "I would have filled up, went on, and prayed again."
Wow, that's powerful. Such a simple statement, but it speaks volumes about his faith and resilience.
And Brigham Young was so impressed by that attitude that he put Jones in charge of the next expedition to Arizona.
Huh. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about a testament to the power of perseverance. It's a reminder that sometimes we need to keep knocking on that door, keep putting in the effort, and trust that eventually it will open.
Exactly. Sometimes we just need to keep moving our feet.
Keep moving our feet. I like that. But what does that look like in practical terms? What are some of those small actions we can take to open those doors?
Well, Elder Renlund shares this really relatable story about a family, Michael and Marion Holmes. They were feeling a bit disconnected from their faith, you know.
Oh, I think we've all been there at some point. Life gets in the way, things get busy, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. What happened with this family?
Well, they had 3 kids, a successful business. Sound familiar? They weren't actively practicing their faith, and one day their bishop came to visit.
A bishop? Is that like a religious leader?
Yeah, kind of like a pastor or a priest, and he simply encouraged them to start praying again. Just pray.
I feel like we've all needed that kind of nudge at some point, just a gentle reminder to reconnect. Did they take his advice?
They decided to give it a try, but when they knelt down to pray, Michael just froze up. He felt awkward and self-conscious and just stopped.
Oh, I can totally relate to that feeling. It's like, what are the right words? Am I doing this right? Especially if you haven't prayed in a while, it can be intimidating.
Yeah, but Marion, his wife, she wasn't going to let him give up. She grabbed his hand, pulled him back down, and said, "Mike, you can do this. Try again."
I love that. She saw past his discomfort to the potential there. It's like sometimes we all need that supportive friend or partner to give us that extra push.
Right, and with Marion's encouragement, Michael finished the prayer, and that one seemingly small act, just finishing that prayer, was like striking that match.
It's amazing how one little action can create a ripple effect, right? Like that first domino that sets the whole thing in motion. So what happened to the Holmes family after that?
Well, their faith reignited. They started praying regularly, went back to church, and started feeling that confirmation that they were on the right path.
It's like they opened themselves up to that flow of blessings. So they kept praying. Is that all it took?
Well, it was more than that. They kept fanning those flames, you know. They started serving in their church community, and eventually they were sealed as a family in the temple. They had 12 children. Talk about commitment.
Wow, 12 children. That's a whole other level of dedication. But it speaks volumes about the transformative power of faith and consistent action. They didn't just strike the match. They kept the fire going.
Exactly. And it speaks to this idea that Elder Renlund emphasizes. Keep moving your feet.
Keep moving your feet. I'm really liking that phrase. It's about taking action, even when we don't have all the answers. But what does that actually look like in everyday life? Do you have any examples from the talk?
He gives all sorts of examples, like making a bow and arrow before receiving revelation on where to find food, you know, or building tools before getting instructions on how to construct a ship.
Interesting. So it's not about passively waiting for a sign, but taking the initiative, even when we don't have all the answers. It's about demonstrating our willingness to act.
Exactly. And that action can sometimes even mean being still and trusting in God's timing.
So even stillness can be a form of action, especially when it's driven by faith and trust. It's about surrendering to a higher power and letting go of the need to control everything.
Exactly. It's about discerning when to push forward and when to be patient. And that brings us to another important point. Blessings come on God's timetable, not ours.
That's a tough one, right? We often want things to happen on our schedule. So if we're working towards something and it's not happening as quickly as we'd like, does that mean we're doing something wrong? Or that God has forgotten about us?
Not at all. Delays don't mean denial. Sometimes certain blessings are reserved for later, you know, even for the most faithful among us. Think of it like waiting for a garden to bloom some flowers just take a little longer to reach their full potential than others.
I love that analogy. It's a reminder that we don't have to force things, that there's a natural rhythm to life, and that sometimes the best things are worth waiting for.
Absolutely. And you know what else can help unlock those blessings?
Tell me more.
Elder Renlund mentions the Come Follow Me program.
Yes, I've heard about that. It's a home-centered study program, right? Designed to help people deepen their understanding of the scriptures.
Exactly. But just like that woodpile we talked about, it has so much potential, but you got to take action.
All right, it can't just sit on the shelf collecting dust. How do we make sure we're getting the most out of it, that we're actually inviting those blessings into our lives through this program?
Well, that's where Elder Renlund's message really hits home. It's not just about passively reading the material, but about actively engaging with it. Study it, ponder it, discuss it, Apply it.
It's about making it a lived experience, not just an intellectual exercise, right?
You got it. And just like those small actions we talked about, consistently engaging with Come Follow Me can create a ripple effect that leads to deeper understanding, stronger faith, and a more meaningful connection with God.
It's about adding kindling to that fire,
Right.
keeping the flames of faith burning bright.
Exactly. So, as we continue this deep dive, let's ask ourselves, what are the specific actions we can take to unlock those blessings in our lives?
What does keep moving your feet actually look like for each of us, right?
Exactly.
It really gets you thinking, doesn't it? Like, what areas of my life could use a little more keep moving your feet action?
It does, right? It's like a call to action.
And it makes you wonder, like, what if the only sign we need is that feeling that we should be doing something, that there's something more we could be doing?
Ah, that's good. It's like we have this innate sense of what we're supposed to be doing, you know?
Right. And sometimes we just ignore it or we get caught up in the busyness of life and we forget to listen to those inner promptings.
It's like we get so focused on the day-to-day that we lose sight of the bigger picture, the bigger purpose.
Exactly. And Elder Renlund is reminding us that we're not just passive bystanders in this whole blessing thing, you know?
Yeah.
We're active participants.
We're not just waiting for blessings to fall into our laps.
Yeah.
We've got to create the conditions for them to manifest. It's like we're co-creators with God, you know?
I love that image. It's like he provides the potential, but we have to provide the spark, the effort, the willingness to act. And in doing so, we open ourselves up to those blessings.
Exactly. It's about tapping into our agency, our ability to choose faith and action. We're not powerless.
Well, it's empowering, right?
Right.
It means that even small, seemingly insignificant actions can have a ripple effect.
Oh, for sure. Like that whole butterfly effect thing, right? That a butterfly flapping its wings can cause a hurricane on the other side of the world. Who knows what kind of chain reactions our actions can set off?
Right. It's mind-blowing when you think about it. So those small actions,
Yeah,
they could be anything, really, right?
exactly. It's different for everyone. Like for one person, it might be finally starting that gratitude journal they've been putting off, you know?
Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to do that.
Or, finally reaching out to that friend they've been meaning to connect with.
Ah, those little acts of kindness and connection, they can go a long way.
Right. And for someone else, it might be committing to a new service opportunity. Or maybe it's just spending a little more time each day in prayer or meditation.
It's about finding those areas where we feel that little nudge, where our heart is whispering, do this, and then having the courage to actually take that first step.
Yes. And to keep taking those steps, remember the Holmes family. One prayer wasn't enough, right? They had to keep fanning those flames, keep nourishing their faith through consistent action.
It's like any relationship, really. It
Like
takes effort to keep it strong and vibrant. You can't just coast.
Totally. And just like tending a fire, right? Sometimes we need to add more logs. Sometimes we need to gently blow on the embers.
And sometimes we just need to let it burn and trust that the warmth will continue.
I love that. It's about being attentive to our own faith fire, and discerning what it needs at any given moment.
So to bring it back to Elder Renlund's talk, what's the key takeaway you hope listeners will walk away with today?
I think it's the power of those small, faith-inspired actions. They really can make a huge difference in our lives. Not just someday, but now, today.
Powerful stuff. So, to our listeners, we leave you with this question. What are those wood piles waiting to be ignited in your life? And what's that small action you can take today to start unlocking those blessings?
Go strike that match.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time. You know, it's funny. I think sometimes we get so caught up in waiting for some grand gesture, some big flashing sign that we're on the right track.
Right, like some bolt out of the blue.
Exactly. But what if the sign is simply that feeling, that nudge that we should be doing something?
Yeah, that inner prompting, that little voice that says, hey, this feels right. This is the way to go.
And it's not always some earth-shattering revelation,
No.
right? It could be something as simple as, I should call my mom, or I should volunteer at that soup kitchen.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just, I should finish that prayer.
Ah, touche. It all circles back to that woodpile and striking that match, doesn't it?
It does. It's that reminder that we're not just passive recipients in this whole blessing thing. We have a role to play.
We're active participants, co-creators even.
I love that. It's like God provides the ingredients, the potential, but we have to do the mixing, the baking, well, you get the idea.
We got to turn on the oven.
Exactly. We've got to put in the effort.
And sometimes that effort looks like stillness,
Right.
right? Like trusting in God's timing, surrendering to the process.
Right. Sometimes the most powerful action is non-action. It's about letting go of control and having faith that things will unfold as they should.
It's a dance, isn't it? Knowing when to push and when to surrender.
It is. It's finding that balance, that sweet spot.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Elder Renlund's talk, what's the one thing you want listeners to remember?
Don't underestimate the power of those small, faith-inspired actions. Whether it's a prayer, a kind gesture, a moment of stillness, or taking that first step toward a goal, these actions can have a ripple effect that we may never fully comprehend.
It's inspiring, really. It reminds us that we're not powerless, that we have the ability to shape our reality, to invite blessings into our lives.
Exactly. And if you're looking for more inspiration, I highly recommend checking out Elder Renlund's full talk, Abound with Blessings.
It's full of amazing insights and stories that really bring this concept to life.
You won't regret it.
So, to our listeners, we leave you with this question. What are those wood piles in your life? What blessings are waiting to be ignited? And what's that small action you can take today to strike that match?
Keep those flames burning.
We'll see you on our next Deep Dive.